He laughed when he signed the divorce papers. You know, the kind of laugh that's not really about happiness, but about the pride of a man who thinks he's already won the war before the first shots even fired you. Robert had that smile. He wasn't celebrating peace, just savoring the feeling of having outsmarted everyone. The system, his soon-to-be ex-wife, heck, maybe even himself. Robert's the kind of guy who built a six-figure business from the cramped living room of a Detroit apartment and parlayed that into a mini empire in Grand Rapids. All while Karen, his wife, juggled 2 jobs, brewed his coffee every morning, and balanced the books late into the night so the power company didn't shut them off. But in Robert's story, she was just a supporting character, never the co-author. So when they landed in court that morning, and he slid that prenup across the table, Robert acted like it was an ironclad shield. He clicked his pen, scrawled his name, and leaned back like a guy closing a business deal. That paper was supposed to leave Karen with nothing but her maiden name, a parting gift from a marriage she'd propped up for a decade. And then right when the room was thick with that hush you only get in courtrooms and funeral homes, the judge lifted the document up to the light, squinted, and said, "This document is not valid." 5 words, but you'd have thought someone fired a gun. The color drained from Robert's face, his smirk vanished, and for a second it felt like even the ceiling lights leaned in closer, waiting to see if he'd get up and walk out or just melt into his chair. No one made a sound. That prenup, the so-called shield, was nothing but paper. A souvenir from a marriage built on Karen's labor, but written to make her invisible. Now, everybody in their circle had been whispering for weeks to get nothing. She'd lose the house, the car, the business she helped build, but never officially owned, and Robert would roll off into the sunset with his new assistant in the company SUV. It's always the same ending, right? Woman leaves with a manila envelope, a dead phone, and not a single person to call on a ride home. Only not this time. See, Karen didn't flinch. Didn't so much as blink when Robert winked at her like, checkmate. She just sat there, her hands folded so tightly her knuckles turned white, while her attorney, Tamika Monrold's friend, Rock, the only person who believed her from day one, stood up and started laying out evidence. Timelines, receipts, bank transfers, screenshots of late-night emails, handwritten notes, password lists, even that Excel sheet Robert once made fun of, "You're too organized, babe," now entered into evidence. You could almost hear the room's heartbeat as each item chipped away at Robert's confidence. First, his knee bounced, then his jaw clenched, and pretty soon he couldn't even look at Karen. What nobody realized, maybe not even Karen, was that this prenup wasn't just weak. It was never filed ever. Not in 2011, when they first signed it at that cramped Crown Heights apartment. Not in 2014, after they updated it. Never. Not once. The document was just a prop, never legally enforceable. Yeah, that happened. But let me back up a sec because you got to see how deep this goes. Karen and Robert started as just 2 broke kids in Brooklyn. Ramen for dinner, the sound of a neighbor's TV through the wall, dreams traded over chipped mugs, and secondhand Wi-Fi. He was restless, always pitching some new idea, while Karen kept her feet on the ground working a diner at dawn, temp agency phones at night, somehow making rent when the checks bounced. Robert called himself the founder. Karen was the one paying the electric bill, so the laptop stayed on. When Robert landed his first real client, Karen was the one who sent the invoice, stayed up all night editing the presentation deck when he dropped the ball, and basically turned every my company into our survival. But her name? Never on a single paper. Robert said it'd complicate taxes, told her to relax, "We're in this together, babe." And she believed him. She turned down a job at a Chicago publisher, said no to grad school so she could stick around for late-night brainstorms and 6 a.m. investor meetings. Karen figured, one day, she'd get the recognition not just as Robert's wife, but as his partner. Instead, he started closing doors. She stopped getting copied on emails, stopped being asked for her opinion, until finally he told her, "You're good at keeping things stable. Let me handle the growth." And, as always, she kept things stable, until the stability cracked. The envelope came on a Tuesday, heavy, official, and cold like it knew what it was about to take away. Brooklyn family court wasn't glamorous. Fluorescent lights, paint the color of sadness, chairs that squeaked when you breathed. Robert showed up in a tailored suit, his lawyer strutting behind him like a peacock. Karen sat with Tamikano jewelry, no flash, just a borrowed strength. She could feel Robert watching her, hungry for some sign of weakness. She never gave him one. The case was called Fields versus Fields. Judge Whitaker didn't smile, didn't blink. Just surveyed the room like a chess master staring at an already solved puzzle. Robert's lawyer started invoice as smooth as butter. Your Honor, there's a prenuptial agreement signed by both parties, clearly awarding all property and assets to my client. Karen's throat went dry, but Tamika squeezed her elbow. You're not alone. Tamika stood and calmly outlined the facts. No witness, no notary, never filed with the county, not at the wedding, not ever. Legally, this is as enforceable as a grocery list. The bailiff looked up. Robert's lawyer smirked. Tamika was a wall intent, doesn't override the law, she said, and that's that. The judge took the document, held it up to the light. Silence. Karen stood when called, her voice wobbly at first, but steadying as she told her side. When Robert started the business, we were 2 paychecks from eviction. I worked 2 jobs. I used my savings to buy his domain name. I found the accountant. I emailed the first investor. I was the scene, not behind it. You could see the jury lean, inched, never spoken her truth out loud before. Tamika presented a parade of evidence emails with Karen's name, early investor conversations, grainy photos of Karen setting up the first trade show booth, bank records showing joint funds going straight into the business. Then came Yvette, Karen's sister. Voice shaking, but words like knives. My sister gave up everything for him. Watch him erase her in real time. Robert's facade crumbled. Then the company's CFO polished. Tried to claim Karen was never at board meetings, never on formal documents, not even an employee. Tamika slid across a meeting agenda. Karen's handwritten notes circled at the bottom, verified by an analyst. Bit by bit, Robert's story collapsed. Tamika's last movie, a certified response from the county clerk. No record of this prenup. Not ever. Judge Whitaker read it. Then, in front of everyone, he declared, the court finds in favor of Mrs. Fields. The business, the house, the majority of shared assets awarded to Karen Fields. Mr. Fields will retain 1 vehicle and a portion of joint savings, per equitable distribution. Robert Frozino smirk, no words, just a man watching his house of cards fall. His attorney whispered something, but Robert didn't move. Karen gathered her things, the same worn leather bag from 100 grocery runs and investor meetings, and walked out past Robert, past the benches, into the summer sun. No tears, no smile. Just the quiet dignity of a woman who refused to be erased. Sometimes justice doesn't come with flashing lights, just a judge who reads the fine print and a pen in the right hands. And sometimes justice is just finally being seen. So, what do you think was justice served, or did the system swing too far? Ever had someone write you out of your own story, only to see you come roaring back? Drop your thoughts below. Where does the line between fairness and payback really fall?